Listen carefully. Every year, people make promises. Every year, they swear things will be different. But this year, this one is not going to be like the others, because this year is not waiting for you. It's demanding you to rise. If you've ever felt behind, if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever looked in the mirror and said, I know I'm capable of more, then this message is your wake-up call. This is your year to win, but only if you're ready to claim it. Let's begin. Step 1. Decisions, not conditions, shape your year. Most people spend their entire lives believing their circumstances determine their destiny. They point to their past, their environment, their finances, their family, their lack of opportunities, and they say, this is why I can't win. But the truth is far more empowering and far more uncomfortable. It's not your conditions that shape your year, it's your decisions. Two people can face the same hardship, the same obstacles, the same disadvantages, yet one rises while the other repeats the same painful patterns. The difference is never the situation. The difference is always the choice. The moment you decide you're no longer defined by excuses or limited by what life has handed you, everything begins to change. A single decision can redirect your entire future because decisions are acts of power, not reactions to circumstance. When you choose to take responsibility, you choose to take control. And the person who takes control becomes the architect of their life instead of the victim of it. Your conditions will always fluctuate. There will be seasons where things feel uncertain or overwhelming. There will be moments where you feel stretched, exhausted, or unprepared. But if you allow your external environment to dictate your internal state, you will live in constant emotional turbulence. Conditions are temporary, decisions are defining. You can decide to show up even when you're tired, to stay committed even when progress feels slow, to keep going even when fear tells you to stop. You can decide that this year will not repeat the last one. You can decide that your future will not be another version of your past. That power exists in you right now, regardless of your circumstances. Every breakthrough begins with the decision to no longer accept what holds you back, and every transformation begins with the decision to rise above what you used to tolerate. Think about the most successful, resilient, or disciplined people you admire. Their lives weren't shaped by perfect conditions, they were shaped by decisions made in imperfect conditions. They chose growth over comfort, they chose discipline over distraction, they chose faith over doubt, they chose to keep moving when everything around them said to quit, and the same force that shaped their life is available to you. When you decide to commit fully, life starts to shift, your mind sharpens, your actions align with your goals, your energy stops leaking into things that drain you, and your focus intensifies. Suddenly, you're no longer pulled by circumstances, you're pulled by purpose, you're no longer reacting to life, you're directing it. Decisions carve the path, decisions create momentum, decisions reshape identity. When you decide what kind of year you're going to have, you are not making a prediction. You are making a declaration. A declaration about who you are going to be, how you are going to show up, and what you will no longer allow to interfere with your potential. Your life responds to your decisions. Your confidence grows with every decision you follow through on. Your identity strengthens every time you choose discipline over excuses. And as your decisions compound, they create a year defined not by chance, but by intention. Step 2, identity creates destiny. Your destiny does not begin with what you want, what you dream about, or what you say you're going to do. It begins with who you believe you are. Identity is the invisible force that shapes your thoughts, actions, and habits. When you see yourself as someone capable, disciplined, powerful, and committed, your behavior naturally rises to match that identity. But if you carry an identity built on doubt, insecurity, or past failures, your actions will always fall short of your potential. Most people try to change their life by focusing on goals, but goals without identity alignment collapse under pressure. You can aim for success, but if deep down you still see yourself as someone who always quits, never follows through, or can't do better, your identity will pull you back like gravity. Real transformation begins the moment you stop trying to force new outcomes with an old identity and start shaping the kind of person who can naturally attract the future you want. Identity is built in subtle ways. It's reinforced by the story you repeat to yourself every day, consciously or unconsciously. If your inner dialogue is filled with limitations, you'll behave in ways that validate those limitations. If you constantly say things like, "I'm not disciplined," "I'm unlucky," "I'm not confident," those narratives become self-fulfilling. The brain seeks consistency, even if that consistency is destructive. It's more comfortable staying within the boundaries of a familiar identity than stepping into a new one that requires discomfort. That's why change feels hard. You're not just creating new habits, you're breaking the gravitational pull of your old self. But once you begin questioning the identity that no longer serves you and start replacing it with one that aligns with your potential, the shift becomes unstoppable. You don't need to have everything figured out. You only need to decide who you are becoming and start acting in alignment with that version of yourself. Every powerful behavioral shift is rooted in identity. You can force yourself to wake up early for a few days, but when you start seeing yourself as someone who honors their commitments, waking up early is no longer a struggle. It becomes a natural expression of who you are. You can push yourself to work hard for a week, but when you believe you are someone who is relentless, driven, and capable of greatness, hard work becomes effortless. Identity creates the emotional and mental framework through which you interpret challenges. When you see yourself as weak, challenges feel overwhelming. When you see yourself as strong, challenges become opportunities to prove who you are. Your reactions, your resilience, and your ability to push forward are all shaped by the identity you hold. That identity is the foundation of destiny, because your destiny is built from the repeated actions driven by the person you believe yourself to be. When you upgrade your identity, you upgrade your destiny. The moment you stop seeing yourself as the person shaped by your wounds, your past mistakes, or the labels others placed on you, you open the door to a new future. You are not limited by who you were. You are guided by who you choose to become. Identity is not fixed, and destiny is not predetermined. You can reinvent the way you think, speak, behave, and respond to life. You can redefine what you tolerate, what you chase, what you expect, and what you believe is possible. And the more you act in alignment with the identity you want, the more your life rearranges itself to match that level of belief and intention. Step 3, discipline is the doorway to freedom. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it's a restriction, a burden, a rigid system that limits their enjoyment of life. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline is the pathway to the life you actually want to live. It is the structure that creates freedom, the foundation that allows you to build confidence, momentum, and stability. Without discipline, life feels chaotic and unpredictable. You're always reacting, always behind, always overwhelmed. But with discipline, you take back control. You decide how your day goes. You decide who you become. You decide what you build. Discipline gives you the power to shape your circumstances instead of being shaped by them. And that is the greatest freedom any person can experience. Every meaningful reward in life, health, financial growth, emotional strength, personal mastery, is born from the consistency that discipline creates. Discipline isn't about forcing yourself into a life you don't enjoy. It's about creating habits that serve your goals rather than sabotage them. When you're disciplined, you're not fighting yourself every day. You're not negotiating with excuses or battling the same weaknesses over and over again. Instead, you create routines and systems that carry you forward even on the days you don't feel motivated. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes with emotion. But discipline is stable. rooted, dependable. It's the promise you make to yourself and keep even when no one is watching. People often wait for the right moment to start, but discipline teaches you that the right moment is the moment you choose to begin, the moment you choose to commit, the moment you choose to follow through. That choice is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. What most people call lack of time or lack of energy is often just lack of discipline. When you aren't disciplined, everything feels harder because you're constantly starting over, constantly rebuilding momentum, constantly trying to catch up. But when discipline becomes part of your identity, you no longer depend on willpower. Your habits do the work for you. You show up automatically, just like brushing your teeth or locking the door behind you. And this automatic consistency compounds. It builds confidence because every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable, strong, and capable. Confidence isn't built through achievement. It's built through repeated self-respect, and discipline is the highest form of self-respect you can practice. True freedom doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from mastering it. Discipline trains you to do the hard things now so life becomes easier later. Without discipline, life becomes a series of uncomfortable consequences. Poor health, financial stress, emotional turbulence, missed opportunities. But with discipline, you experience the freedom of stability, progress, and internal strength. You develop the freedom to trust yourself, the freedom to choose your responses instead of reacting impulsively, the freedom to create the future you want rather than settling for the one your old habits were leading you toward. Discipline doesn't limit your life. It liberates it. It gives you the freedom to rise above your circumstances, the freedom to pursue your potential without hesitation, and the freedom to step into the strongest version of yourself every single day. Step 4, your environment shapes your future. Your environment is one of the most powerful, underestimated forces influencing your future, often in ways you don't even notice. The people you interact with, the conversations you engage in, the habits you observe, the energy you surround yourself with, all of it is shaping your mindset, your confidence, your ambition, and even your standards. Humans adapt to their surroundings more than they realize. If you spend enough time around people who complain, you begin to complain. If you surround yourself with people who make excuses, you start adopting their excuses. If you stay in environments filled with doubt, you absorb that doubt until it becomes your own. But the opposite is also true. Put yourself around people who think bigger, move with purpose, challenge themselves daily, and treat growth as a lifestyle, and you will elevate without effort. Your environment silently influences what you believe is possible, what you tolerate, and what you become. Most people never grow because they're stuck in environments that keep them small. They're surrounded by individuals who are comfortable, unmotivated, or threatened by change. Every time they dream bigger, someone tells them to be realistic. Every time they push forward, someone makes them feel guilty for improving. And without realizing it, their environment becomes a cage built from other people's fears, insecurities, and limitations. You can have all the talent and ambition in the world, but if the environment around you suffocates your growth, you will struggle to rise. You cannot soar in a space that was designed for crawling. You cannot think boldly in a room that only entertains negativity. And you cannot evolve if you continue to surround yourself with people who benefit from your stagnation. Your environment isn't just physical. It's emotional, mental, and energetic. It includes what you consume daily, the media you watch, the content you scroll through, even the thoughts you entertain. If your environment is filled with noise, chaos, drama, and distraction, your mind becomes cluttered with the same. But if you intentionally build an environment of clarity, inspiration, discipline, and challenge, your thinking becomes sharper and your decisions become stronger. The mind thrives in spaces that support growth. It deteriorates in spaces that normalize complacency. A powerful environment pushes you to stretch beyond your comfort zone. to outgrow who you were yesterday, to take responsibility for your potential. It forces you to raise your standards because being around excellence makes mediocrity uncomfortable. Breaking free from a limiting environment doesn't always mean walking away from people or physically moving locations. Sometimes it simply means choosing what influences you and what no longer gets access to your energy. It means building relationships with people who encourage your evolution instead of resisting it. It means curating your space so it reflects who you want to become, not who you used to be. It means choosing mentors, content, conversations, and communities that align with your goals and challenge your excuses. When your environment reflects growth, you grow. When your environment reflects vision, you see further. And when your environment reflects strength, you begin stepping into your own strength as naturally as you breathe. Step 6. Pain can be your greatest power. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. Most people spend their days trying to avoid it, numb it, or run away from it, believing that pain is something meant only to break them, weaken them, or hold them back. But the truth is far more transformative. Pain is a source of immense power when you learn how to use it. Every struggle you've survived, every heartbreak you've endured, every setback that shook you, every disappointment that left you breathless, all of it has carved strength into you, depth into you, and resilience into you. Pain forces you to confront who you are and who you're capable of becoming. It reveals the parts of you that need to grow, the habits that need to die, and the limits you didn't even know you could surpass. Pain is the great teacher that pushes you beyond the small, comfortable version of yourself and into the person you were meant to be. Pain exposes truth. It shows you what you value, what you fear, and what you're willing to fight for. It strips away the illusions that comfort creates and forces you to see your life with clarity. Most breakthroughs come after moments of discomfort because pain interrupts the patterns you've allowed for too long. It shakes you awake. It pushes you to say, I can't live like this anymore. And that declaration is often the beginning of evolution. Pain introduces you to your strength because it demands something from you. It demands you adapt, rebuild, or rise. You learn how powerful you are only when you are placed in situations that require your power. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without pressure, there is no transformation. Pain becomes your power the moment you allow it to fuel you instead of freeze you. The people who rise the highest in life are not the people who avoid pain. They are the people who understand it. They use it. They let it sharpen their focus instead of scatter it. They let it deepen their commitment instead of weaken it. They take the wounds that life gave them and turn them into wisdom. They take the moments that almost broke them and turn them into sources of strength. Pain becomes a story of empowerment when you choose meaning over misery. It becomes a tool rather than a trauma when you decide that everything you went through is going to build you, not bury you. Pain is not the enemy. The refusal to grow from it is. You can't always control what hurts you, but you can control what it creates in you. You can let pain make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. You can let it close your heart, or you can let it open your eyes. You can let it weaken your spirit, or you can let it awaken your purpose. Pain carries energy, raw, intense, emotional energy, and that energy can be transformed. The same pain that once broke you can become the fire that drives you. The same experiences that once shattered your confidence can become the foundation of your strength. The same hardships that once made you feel powerless can become the very reason you rise with more passion, more clarity, and more determination than ever before. Step 6. You don't need permission. You need progress. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck in life is because they spend years waiting for permission. Permission to start, permission to change, permission to try something new, permission to become who they truly are. They wait for approval from family, validation from friends, or confidence to magically appear. They wait for the right time, the perfect moment, or a sign from the world telling them it's okay to move forward. But progress does not come from waiting. It comes from action. It comes from choosing to move even when you feel uncertain, unprepared, or uncomfortable. You don't need permission to take control of your life. You only need the courage to begin. Every step forward, no matter how small, builds momentum, and momentum is what transforms doubt into confidence, fear into strength, and hesitation into certainty. The truth is that no one is coming to rescue you, validate you, or pull you into the next level of your life. People are too caught up in their own battles to give you the constant reassurance you've been hoping for. And even if they did approve of your dreams, their approval wouldn't change anything unless you acted. Progress is built through your decisions, your discipline, your consistency. Waiting for someone to say, "Now you can start," is surrendering your power. Every day you delay because you're seeking permission is another day you reinforce the belief that you're not ready, not worthy, or not capable. But readiness is not a requirement for progress. Progress is what creates readiness. The moment you start moving, things begin to shift. Your mindset changes, your energy rises, your belief strengthens. You gain clarity not by thinking, but by doing. People often wait for confidence before they act, but confidence doesn't precede progress. Confidence is created by progress. It's born from the repeated proof that you can rely on yourself. Every time you take a step forward, you send a message to your subconscious that you are someone who takes action. You are someone who follows through. You are someone who moves even when it's hard. Slowly, your identity transforms because you're no longer a person who hesitates. You're a person who executes. And this shift is what changes everything. When you stop seeking permission and start seeking progress, you take ownership of your life. You stop living by other people's expectations and start living by your own standards. You stop being shaped by fear and start being shaped by possibility. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You don't need people to applaud your decisions. You don't need universal approval to step into your potential. Growth is personal. It's uncomfortable. It's often misunderstood. But every bit of progress you make, every step you take toward the life you want, builds a future that is yours, not someone else's version of it. Progress compounds. The small efforts you make today become the confidence you rely on tomorrow. The decisions you make now become the opportunities you experience later. Permission keeps you waiting. Progress keeps you evolving. When you choose progress, you stop living life on hold and start living life on purpose.